Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Athira, and I work on the product team here at Zoho Paid Sense. We talk to a lot of marketing and growth teams, and there's one common problem that we hear about a lot, which is, people say we're running tests, but it's not working, right? The needle isn't moving. And usually it's because, we fall into the trap of having a great idea and then just running with it. We've all been there. It's extremely human to do that, but it's also the fastest way to waste a roadmap, right? So that's exactly why I'm so excited for today's session. We're joined by Chris Gibbons. He is the Chief Experimentation Officer at CreativeCX. Chris has spent years helping brands move away from, what we call reactive testing, where you're, this whole cycle of launching random experiments just for the sake of some activity. And he's going to tell us how we can move forward with a structure that actually scales. So today, Chris is going to talk to us, help us, figure out how we can stop, as he, says, solving problems that don't actually exist, and how to ensure that every experiment is rooted in a real customer friction point. Now, before I hand it over to Chris, just a quick note on the logistics part of things. You'll see a question Q&A tab on your screen. So you can drop all your questions there, and we'll take them as we go. And Chris has also planned a live experimentation for us, so that's going to be very, very exciting. And with that, Chris, I'm hand it over to you.
Thank you so much for the very nice introduction, and it's a pleasure to meet everybody out there. So absolutely fire across your questions as we go through the session, and then I'll answer a few as we go, and then the rest at the end. But yes, I'm Chris. We do everything around experimentation. That's what CreativeCX is about. So that's our primary focus. Personally, I started my career as talking to hundreds and hundreds of users in usability testing, actually. So from a UX point of view is where I started, and then I got completely hooked on A/B testing as a way to explore and be more adventurous in the ideas, and most importantly, learn what works and what doesn't. And ever since I've been addicted to this, and so fascinated by the subject. And today, we're going to talk about the scalable workflow of problem-first experimentation. And actually, the first thing we're going to do before we go into the details and show you some more examples is we're going to do the live experiment. So can everybody get their mobile phones ready? Hopefully you got some charge in them, because we're going to do something on Slido in a second. So let's proceed. And let's start with an experiment. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at different types of ideation sessions. I'm sure you've been in a situation where you want to improve conversion rate and performance, and you all get together in your company and you have a brainstorming session, and you think, okay, how on earth are we going to get more people to click add to cart and sell more of our products or book more of our hotels? And you all get together in a room, and then you bring up loads of different websites, examples, and you all ideate and come up with tons of ideas. So for the first variant in our experiment, that's what you're going to be doing. And all I'm going to do is to show you this step in the journey on this hotel website from the UK. And I'm not going to give you any information about it other than we want to optimize this page to improve booking conversion rate. And this is the boring step. This is when somebody has already selected the hotel room which they want, and they've got to the first step, which is kind of a login or check out as a guest step, just before putting in all their details and booking it. So what I'd like you to do is to look at this very simple page and start to think of some ideas to improve it, to improve booking conversion rate. So if you can get out your phones now and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and I'd like each of you to come up with about 4 of your best ideas. And I'm purposely not giving you too much information. So do your best, be as creative as possible. Think about how would you want to optimize this page. And if you can start now, that would be amazing. And if you have any issues, put them in the Q&A accessing. This will just open up Slido. So hopefully you can use the QR code and that will work. One person's typing, great. So if you can all get your phone out and start participating, that'd be amazing. And if you have more than 4 ideas, that's totally fine. Put 5 in or 6. But each time you have to write an idea, maybe just use very simple 3 or 4 words, and then you need to send it, and then you can do another one. See, so that's how it works. Okay, a few more typing. So if everyone else wants to participate, the more people we get to do this, the more interesting it will be. And then once you're done, I'm going to give you another minute.
Chris, can we also show the previous screen once again, just in case if they want to have a final look?
Yes, yeah. Let's have a look. Active poll. It might deactivate it there. That's the only thing.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's,
all right. No worries.
you'll have to.
No worries.
All right. Has everybody had a go? Oh, there's another person typing. I just let them type, and then actually I'll reveal some of the word cloud ideas now. Okay. All right, but carry on. We've got another 30 seconds. So we've got a number of ideas, colors, kind of the CTA, make a more mobile friendly layout, add animation, add social logins. So real kind of mixture of themes coming up, improve the contrast, more add social logins actually here, a different kind of placement, and then a rate reminder, which is really interesting. So all kinds of different ideas, quite a large range. And that's the oh, a couple more people participating now. Okay, obvious place, but add an obvious placement. A booking summary. Okay, let's move on, and we're going to move on to variation or variant 2 of this experiment now. So you see, looking at this word cloud, there's all kinds of ideas because there's always so many things that you can change. Headline changes, for example, but there's so many different ideas and different directions that you can go when you all get in a room like this. But let's do the variant B now. And for variant B, we're going to add another ingredient. And this is actually some this is what we call opportunity audit, some discovery research, which we carried out with this client. And the key thing here is that we did analytics analysis, journey analysis using analytics. We did usability testing with real users, real target audience. And then we triangulated all these problems. And actually, we found 101 problems in total around problems and opportunities to improve the whole journey. And you'll see down here, this is the whole journey all the way from start to finish. And here's the login stage. And then actually, all of this led to tons of ideas, tons of A/B test ideas, personalization ideas, a few initiatives, and a lot of fixes and JDIs, which are just do it fixes. And one area in particular came up, and this was on the login step. And there was some high priority issues. One high priority issue, but came up, and it was totally unexpected. We didn't see it coming at all, and it was. And I'm going to show you a clip. You won't be able to hear the sound, but I'm going to talk through what happens in the confusion. And actually, when we were carrying out this research, we were all totally shocked and surprised by the confusion because it seemed like a fairly straightforward step. Yeah, so this this is the key. This is the data, and in this experiment, you're going to be ideating from data. And actually, I'll show you this clip, but I don't think you can hear it. So, but what's happening? And I'm sure you can't hear it. So what's happening is this user Mark is totally confused. What's happening is that he just doesn't know what to do. He's going between the login and the checkout to guest. And we were completely, you can see the cursor here going from one to the other. And then he doesn't know how to proceed at all. And he's talking through how he just doesn't understand what's going on, and he's kind of completely fed up, and he's not getting anywhere. And he's just totally confused. And then the aha moment was when he starts to explain what was really happening. And then what reveals itself at this point, he's talking about checkout as a guest making sense, and he starts to talk about how it's actually the he wants to check in. He's actually going to the hotel, and suddenly it emerges to all of them that there's this huge problem with the word check in and check out, which are very common terms from e-commerce. You know, a lot of your e-commerce sites will have checkout as a guest, won't they? But actually that completely contradicts the whole mindset of a hotel and of booking a room. So that user, I wish you could hear the sound, but he was just so confused by the whole just that terminology, checkout as a guest. So yeah, and it's nothing that we saw. We didn't predict this at all. So checkout as a guest is not the best terminology for a hotel site. So what we then did is we like we always do, we talk about triangulated problem statements. And a triangulated problem statement is where you do research analysis from both qual and quant to form an opportunity problem statement, which you then ideate from. And in this case, this is the problem statement. Checkout as a guest terminology is very confusing for users as it clashes with terms used when staying at a hotel. And in the insights, we have that usability testing clip, which is serious confusion with the checkout as a guest. And we also got from analytics, there's a 9% exit rate on that stage. And also 18% of users go back to the basket from a previous step. And often when you see that type of behavior where people are looping back and going back, that means that they didn't get something, or they missed something, or where it's a real sign of confusion. So now for this experiment, this is the information that you have. So you now know what's confusing users. And now what I'd like you to do is to ideate again. So we're going to go to variant variant B, and you're going to have another 2 minutes, and I want you to come up with your best ideas, actually, now that you know what the issue is around that terminology in the guest checkout. So if you can join again, and it might use the same link actually, but oh, there you go, one participant typing. And if you can type your ideas again, that'd be amazing. And I'll replay so the main issues are that confusion between the checkout as a guest as terminology, and that was just stopping users. We also saw the same issue with several other users that we did sessions with. So 4 participants typing, fantastic. Three more, amazing. If you can type all your ideas down. Great stuff. All right, I'm going to go to the next one. All right, so there we've got some ideas coming up here. Now carry on typing, those that haven't done it, but change the CTA copy to remove checkout, change CTA for guest booking, optimize the label, log in, sign up, sign in, cross to close, change wording, second button. Okay, So you can already see we're being much more focused in on what the real problem is. And yet we can still be very creative because there's still loads of different ways of solving this problem. But you can start to see, hopefully, the difference it makes when you have some real data to ideate from. Change wording, second button, absolutely. So, and the great thing is also there's some really simple experiments that you can do to solve this problem as well. So you can make a big impact. And when we, all right, a few more icons are confusing. Booking details aren't very clear. Cross, okay, all right. So hopefully, I'm going to move on now. These were the two variants. So variant A was the let's just optimize the search bar, let's just optimize the login step or the PDP type of ideation session. It's one of those ideation sessions where we don't have much data, but everyone's in the room, they're all looking a bit confused. And it's a bit of a scattergun kind of effect. Versus, on the surface, it looks like a similar ideation session with loads of stickies, etc., post-it notes. But the key difference here on the right, the problem first ideation session, is that we have a triangulated problem statement on the TV you can see here, these are all our clients of ours, which everybody is ideating from. And then you end up really much more focused on the actual problems with your real customers that they're facing. And because of the depth of understanding, because you really understand what the problems are, the quality of the ideas improve. So I hope that kind of did a reasonable job of highlighting the difference between these ideation sessions. Of course, it was ultra simplified for this experiment. Okay, let's move on. So what's wrong with these type of ideation sessions, with the let's optimize the product details type ideation session? When teams don't have customer problems to go after, they have no choice but to spaghetti test random ideas. And actually, this has been a bit, I've talked a lot about this over the years, and it's been a little bit controversial, interestingly. Some people have thought that, oh, what's wrong with random testing? What's wrong with just testing everything we see on our competitor sites? And it's, unless you've got infinite amount of resource in your team, unless you can absolutely test hundreds and hundreds of ideas, you're just not going to get anywhere very quickly, because you just won't be testing the right areas of the journey necessarily. You won't be testing what really matters. And ultimately, if you're not addressing a real problem or opportunity, the likelihood of having a successful A/B test and finding a winning variation that makes an impact to your bottom line is pretty much, it's very, very low. And that explains some of the very low win rates out there. The second reason is far too much time is wasted trying to solve non-existent problems. So there are two things. There's the spaghetti testing, but this is also extremely important. So many teams out there are building features, especially product teams, spending months and months and months building features that aren't solving any problem, any known problem with their real users. And then at the end of it, when they do hopefully A/B test, they wonder why it doesn't work and why they don't get any results. And it's usually because they haven't done it. The idea didn't come from research and from real data analysis. So those two reasons are so important. And that's why we've been helping clients to really adopt this problem-first approach to product and experimentation. So to move from a solution first, which is kind of what we're talking about with the spaghetti testing and solving non-existent problems, this is this solution first type of approach, trying to get people to move to a problem first, where at least all the teams are focused on a common goal. So yeah, moving away from guesswork, which is powering your A/B tests and your experimentation and product innovation programs, to something more structured and data-driven. And actually, this is the framework which we've been using. This is actually from work with EasyJet, actually, another travel company which we work with. And one of the key things first is having a parallel stream of opportunity discovery research. And this might just be a couple of people in your organization who are dedicated to doing research and analysis. But the important thing is that it's something that happens regularly. You may have heard the term continual discovery, that approach where you're always looking for opportunities and looking for new problems to go after. So this is really important to establish. And this is, and on the big circles here, this is where we do bigger research projects, where we do a lot of moderated usability testing, a lot of analytics analysis and journey analysis, and which get us all these opportunities. The smaller circles here are more regular, smaller pieces of analysis throughout the year. So it may include different types of UX research and different types of analyses. This type of thing can involve, we've done some really good survey work, for example, and all kinds of different flavors of research. The next step, which I talked about already, is the triangulated problem statement. So this, out of the research, we will get several problems which are really nicely condensed into an understandable problem statement. This is actually one from the EasyJet, which we were on stage talking with those guys a month or so ago, and this is one of the problem statements which we use for that. And then that's where you have your problem first ideation sessions. So you can see this is how the framework, this is how the process works here. And this is just for illustration purposes, but you can have as many ideation sessions, which I'll go into a bit of detail next, actually, into what makes this up. So the problem first ideation sessions, which we did a very, very small version of in that experiment, the most important thing is at the beginning, you get those people who are responsible for uncovering the problem statements to talk through them and present the clips of the usability testing clips, talk through all the data and present it in a really nice, concise way, like this problem statement here, before the different teams get ideating. Just a note on the type of people you invite to these sessions as well. This is one of the great things about these ideation sessions. It's really it's great when you get more collaboration, when you invite different people from different teams into these sessions, especially when they have a relation to whatever the topic you're talking about. So you might want to even invite customer service into these sessions, or if it's more of a marketing thing, you might invite marketing, or if it's product, for example. But it's nice to have a bit of diversity in here too, because then that will mean that the creativeness of the ideas will be more just more imaginative. The second phrase, when it comes up, the second stage is the crazy eights. The most important thing is to do an individual style ideation. You may have heard of the problem of groupthink. What you don't want to do is just start ideating as a group, because the loudest person in the room or the highest paid person in the room will probably dictate the direction of the ideas that you go in. So the key thing is to do this individually. And we use Crazy Eights a lot, because this is an exercise in 8 minutes. You're supposed to try to come up with 8 ideas, actually, not 4 like we did earlier. And you can use drawing or writing words. This is the scruffy example in the middle. And what we also try to do is to talk about the wildcard idea. We want participants to come up with a more extreme idea, because at this stage, we're not worried at all about the feasibility. We just want to kind of people to do whatever they want to in terms of the ideas. We can worry about feasibility later. And the third stage, what we do in these sessions, is what we call co-creation prototyping. And this is a fun stage. This is where the teams do start to work together. So we split, if we've got enough in one of these sessions, we might split into 3 groups. And then we start to work together some of the best ideas that people have had individually. We work them together into something more substantial. And we use a method where we've actually just print off parts of a website, if we're doing a website, or the app, if we're doing the app. We print things off and let people have scissors and Pritt stick and tape and colored bits of paper, and we let them go really, really creative. And then it really helps them to start to formulate a few of these ideas. And this then is what we start to make into A/B test ideas, and the team responsible for the experimentation really takes these forward. Or if it's more product experimentation, the product teams really take all this insight and then they move forward and it gets added to the backlog and the roadmap for experimentation. So this is our process for the ideation sessions, and it's working so well on so many different levels, actually. And plus, it's a great culture building exercise. You can invite directors to this if you like, and they'll be very happy to see that everything is data driven, that we're really addressing real customer problems, and they'll also be happy to see that everybody is participating, collaborating, and working together as a team. So it's like a secondary benefits from doing this type of exercise, in fact. And like all these arrows suggest, there'll be tons and tons of great ideas coming off of this work, which then, rather than question marks, which powers the experimentation and product innovation flow. So you can, and I'm not saying that you're going to end up with that these A/B tests down here are all going to be coming from triangulated problem statements and research, because the reality of working in the business is that they're always fly-in ideas and business ideas to test. And I believe you shouldn't stop them. It's just about increasing the percentage of problem-first ideas over time, and that will help you get better results. So this is the process. One of the key things is, one of the complaints from product teams about research and analysis is that they don't have enough time, because everybody's busy building features and building A/B tests, and they don't have time for research. So one of the key points of all of this is to run opportunity discovery research in parallel. Like I said before, it may just include a couple of people or a whole team of people. But if it's in parallel, it doesn't slow down experimentation and product innovation. It just feeds in. And I think that's one of the key things to make this really happen. Otherwise, it just won't happen to the depth that it needs to happen to be good quality. And good news is we've got great results so far. So we've been helping our clients adopt this process over the last few years, especially some of the bigger clients like EasyJet. And actually, we've got some results from EasyJet, which are really good program metric results, which I can share. These are the results we talked with them on stage about a month or so ago. And interestingly, what we've done here is we've got all the A/B tests. We've got the win rate of 34% and the loss rate of 23% and the inconclusive rate of 43%, which everybody wants to reduce the inconclusive rate because we want to learn more from all our experimentation. But what we've done here is actually to break up the problem-first ideas, the ideas that were addressing customer problem statements, and look at the win rate of those compared to all the others, which are like fly-in business ideas, competitor-inspired, or ad hoc. And really excitingly, we can see that the win rates are 52% higher for the problem-first ideas when we went into A/B testing. And also, the inconclusive rates are 39% lower. And this is fascinating to me, because even if, and it's because we're at least testing the right area. We might not get it right, or the team might not get it right first time, but at least they're addressing an area that really matters. We just haven't found the right solution to the problem quite yet. And that's a really key thing. But we will no doubt do that in the next iteration. One of the other byproducts of this problem-first approach is that the iteration rate goes up too. And I know for those involved in A/B testing and experimentation and CRO, you'll know the importance of iteration, but actually you shouldn't give up on an idea. But if you don't have any problem or research suggesting that there's a problem or an opportunity there in the first place, it's an awful lot easier for teams to give up on it and just move on to the next random idea. If there is a real problem and opportunity statement and you have clips like that one I showed you before, and you know the problem is there, then obviously the teams are not going to give up on it, because you don't want to leave a problem there with all your customers facing for ages and ages. So it really encourages iteration, and ultimately that's what gets the win rates up. So I hope that's a bit of proof is always useful, isn't it? And before I wanted to, the last area is, this is the third point that problem first really helps with. And it helps with this troubling confirmation bias. And for those that don't know what confirmation bias is, it's all about when teams jump to, say, a crazy idea, might be any idea really, when there's solution first, they only investigate, they only look for, they only talk about the evidence that they believe already that backs up their idea, but they ignore everything else. All of this area they ignore. And it's almost, I mean, like all biases, they're part of human nature, really. So it's quite natural, but we do want to be really careful of this one. And this one is so prevalent in digital and product and optimization and experimentation. It's when the team has an idea and a hypothesis, straight a solution first idea. They see something very cool, for example, on a competitor website, and then what they do, because they're data driven, they cherry pick the insights and learnings to back up their idea. So they go into analytics tools, they do research just about that thing they really want to succeed, or they misuse usability testing resource for pure validation, just validating their ideas, just tick box exercise, for example. And then hopefully the A/B test at the end. But you'll see this is confirmation bias. You're doing this cherry picking, this data analysis after you've had the idea. It's the wrong way around. And that is a pure definition of confirmation bias. So as an example, a very simple example is, and I've heard this type of thing mentioned before in meetings, is say, let's go with full screen auto playing video on our product details page. Wow, that would be very cool, wouldn't it? And I've heard teams say this before. And then they go and find some data to back up their very cool idea. So then they go to, oh, we're data driven, so we need to find some data insights to support our idea, which is very natural. So this is just one idea, is that, oh, people who watch the product videos have conversion rate that is 4 times higher than those that don't. And I'm sure many of the teams here and many people have seen this come up, where you, and you see this all over the place, don't you? It's just part of data analysis. You look at a certain journey and, oh, 4 times the conversion rate for those people that maybe engage a video, maybe click at the images. But the key thing is, this is actually reverse causation in action. Because of course, those that are engaged more and more motivated and who look at the video are going to have a conversion rate which is higher. In actual fact, the conversion rate of those that read your T's and C's will be massively higher, won't they? But it doesn't mean that you present everybody with the terms and conditions when they arrive on your website, as an extreme example of this. So this is something you really need to watch. You need to find representative comparisons when you're doing your analytics analysis. And then the next thing is, for example, would you have a survey finding? And 15% commented that the videos were most important to them. But of course, what about the other 85%? And again, it's so easy, isn't it, to find some qualitative data just to back up your idea. Of course, if you're doing things in this way round, if you're doing ideation, solution first, and then you're doing your analysis, and I guess that's the key here. So to raise awareness of this bias, another thing we've been trying to raise awareness of is we had a competition at CreativeCX to come up with a name for it, because we all need a punchy name, don't we? And actually, Tom, our senior strategy consultant, he won the competition with forcing insights and learnings to hypothesis. And the whole point is, it's like you're forcing those learnings to the hypothesis after you've had the hypothesis. And actually, this spells out nicely filth, which we thought was very appropriate for this type of behavior, and we thought it might work quite well. So, I mean, in a nutshell, don't be filthy, be problem first is something we always say. And I wanted to finish up on the last thing really is prioritization. I know this comes up a lot. People talk about prioritization a lot, but prioritization, so many of the prioritization methods out there, whether it's pie, whether it's ice, whether it's rice, they're actually fundamentally solution first. They're built to when you have a whole ton of ideas first, and then you're trying to sort them out. But the key thing for us, and what we've seen work really well, is problem first prioritization. And again, it stems on, you need some evidence, you need data, you need quant and triangulated problem statements. But once you have these, you prioritize the problems first before the solutions, and before you even ideate off them. And then the key thing is, then you, so this can be done off the reach, the size of the problem, and the seriousness of the problem, and in how much competence you have in it. Then you do the ideation sessions, like only on the problems where you think there's a big opportunity. And then it's about prioritizing the solutions to each problem. And actually this bit becomes really easy now, because they're all focused. It's actually, this becomes more of a strategy, how you prioritize the solutions, the series of iterative A/B tests to address a problem. The hard work is done here when prioritizing the problem. And this method, it actually simplifies things quite a lot, and it's a lot more powerful and a lot more focused. It encourages iteration, and the bottom line, it encourages you to address the biggest opportunities on your website with your market at any one time. And it discourages that kind of just relying on copying competitors and taking ideas from what they're doing. You don't even know if they're doing works or not. And honestly, how many A/B tests we've done where the same idea wouldn't work on one client in the sector versus another one. So it's another real, be careful of playbooks and these databases where people are just with shortcuts to A/B test ideas, for example. You really need to focus on your own brand, your own customers, because they have unique needs, they have unique problems and opportunities for them. So that's where you would get your biggest winners. And I just wanted to leave you at the end with just a summary of things to take away with you. And the first one is focus on real customer problems for higher win rates and lower conclusion rates. Dedicate resource to ongoing opportunity discovery research. This is so important. If you can somehow get that a parallel stream of opportunity discovery research happening, that'd be fantastic. Triangulate your problem statements. So because we just don't want quant only, we want quant and qual. That's where the biggest understanding comes from. And move to problem first ideation sessions. They're also an awful lot of fun, to be honest. It's a great way to work. Iterate rather than giving up on a problem, and then do what we did with EasyJet and track the percentage of problem first experiments you run, and let us know how it goes compared to all the fly-in and business ideas. So yeah, I mean that's it. And I think we can take some questions now, and I think we've got a few here. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for some questions here. So first one, how do you prevent teams from reframing every idea as a problem just to fit the narrative? Interesting. Yes. So again, the question hints at the problem here. So the problem is fitting a narrative and having that strategy. But the key thing is, if you do your research journey analysis, problems will come up and they'll be unpredictable. You won't know where the problems are. And I think that's one of the key things. So it's not really fitting, an idea or a strategy already. It should just be done in parallel, separate to that. But preventing the teams from reframing an idea comes down to it comes down to how good you are at doing triangulated problem statements and how objective the teams are. That's why a separate team can be quite good at this. If product teams are only responsible for the research themselves, they were more inclined again to try to cherry pick and to do the kind of the filth confirmation bias in their research. So that's why the parallel stream really works well. I hope that makes sense. Do you prioritize frequency of a problem or severity of impact, and how do you quantify that trade-off? When we're prioritizing problems, it's based on the severity of the issue, the size of the problem, and the reach. So actually, it's both things. So the frequency is equivalent to the reach, how often it happens, how many people it happens with. Because when you're doing one-to-one research, for example, you may see a problem with a few users, but actually that's the key of triangulation. When you look at the quant and you think, actually, is it happening to 5% of users, 1%, or 20%? Then you start to get an idea whether it's a problem which is affecting a lot of people or not, and that's how you prioritize. If idea first fails so often, why do top teams still fall back to it under pressure? That's such a good question. I think it's that human nature thing, isn't it? It's a thing like, I know best sometimes. I have all these ideas. I don't need to do research, or and also I think it's a really funny thing. I think some of this happens when you with senior teams. Actually, they've got to their position of being senior by having the right answers to things and making decisions themselves. And a lot of the times those ideas haven't been tested, but they're in a senior position, so they almost get too confident. That's why A/B testing is amazing, because we have stats now in terms of what the average win rates are. And if you look at average win rates for enterprise clients, they're around 10 to 20% only. So that's at best like 1 in 5 ideas actually making a difference to metrics that matter. Which is very low, isn't it? So actually you can be wrong so often. So we find actually presenting those stats really help people to know that there's a good chance their ideas won't work. And it does go some way to stopping them under pressure. The other thing is, when you think about that solution first ideation methodology we talked about, which everyone does, you're right here when you say pressure, because often it's performance is down, conversion rates down, let's all go into a room quickly and ideate some solutions. And it's tricky, isn't it? You're being forced to come up with some ideas quickly, and it's a reason why that type of way does fail. But if you imagine you have a parallel stream of research and ideation happening, you will have tons of data to draw upon. So when you're under pressure to get results, you will pick the biggest problem and opportunity at the time. The key thing is, if you don't have, say, as a company, if you don't know what your 10 biggest problems and opportunities are at the moment, then you haven't done your research. So it's actually quite a good question. Go to your teams and say, what are the top 10 triangulated problem statements we have at the moment, problems and opportunities as a company? And if they can't tell you, you know what you need to do. You need to go and do proper journey analysis. The whole company needs to know, in different areas of the business, different journeys, what their top problems are. So important. Great question. What's the minimum data threshold before you can confidently declare something a problem rather than noise? That's another fantastic question. So that comes down to the triangulation. That comes down to, have you done qual and quant, not just qual, not just quant on its own? And when you see things coming up in multiple sources, then you know it's a real problem that's affecting people. The amazing thing with qual research, with actually getting users, and that's why we love moderated usability testing rather than unmoderated, is that you're there with the users. You can dig into the problem and really find out the why, find and understand what is going on, what is confusing that person. What is it about why they're not clicking checkout as a guest? What's the actual thing that's causing that? But then with the quant, that's where you quantify the size of the problem and use all the great tools. You use the tools like Zoho, for example, to actually start quantifying, start thinking whether this is something that we prioritize or not. So it's such a good question. So it's not really a minimal data threshold, it's about prioritization. If problems have more data than others, then you prioritize them. And then lastly, which metrics matter most when evaluating whether an experiment solved the original problem? That's another great question. So the key thing to watch are metrics like click-through metrics. The great thing about doing research is you start to find out what behaviors show that there is a problem or not. So you can use those metrics in the secondary metrics to learn whether you've solved it or not. So say, for example, the confusion with that guy in the check-in, check-out was like going back and forward and opening and clicking. You'd want to measure that in the A/B test to solve the problem. But ultimately, you want to do end-of-journey metrics. You want to do, if you have the data, if you have the numbers, you want to do the end-of-journey, whatever that might be for that task. In this case, it was booking conversion rate. So it's the thank you page. It was the end of a journey, which suggests that more people are completing the journey. If you don't have enough traffic, you need to choose a proxy metric that could be click to the next step, for example. It's not perfect because you don't know if it's really solved the problem, but at least it's a good proxy metric for that. But be careful of just engagement metrics and like vanity metrics, some people call them. Clicking through on something doesn't necessarily mean you've solved the problem. And then, oh yes, one more, sorry. How do you distinguish between a true user problem and a data artifact that only looks like a problem? Well, if it's a data artifact, it's you haven't got that qual research yet. You've likely got some clues as to something going on somewhere, but you need to somehow get closer to your end users at that point. Something might look weird, like often in the biggest one that come up all the time are like password problems and all that area. And you can see clues in the data that there are real problems there, but you may not know what is going on until you get a bit closer. Try to get closer to your customers. You could do that through surveys, for example. You could do that, or the gold standard is moderated usability testing of a whole journey to figure out what's going on. But fantastic questions. So I think we'll finish there if that's all right. I just want to say thank you so much for participating in the experiment. I hope you found it interesting and saw the comparison. And then I'd love to connect with you all. So please connect with me on LinkedIn and get in touch and have a chat. Always happy to chat about things. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time and being so open with your workflow today. It's very refreshing to talk about, why so many experiments fail, right? We fail to understand the minor, flaws that we make in the process of going ahead with testing something big, and how we can, or the benefits of actually just slowing down a bit to define the problem first. So thank you so much for sharing that insight. And to everyone who spent the last 45 minutes with us, thank you. And we know your calendars are busy, so we really appreciate you showing up and asking such thoughtful questions. We'll send over the recording and a few of the main key points from Chris's talk today in a day or two. And if you're currently in the phase of exploring things, feel free to play around with Zoho PageSense. We also have a free version that's built exactly for this kind of discovery that Chris spoke about. And yeah, if you have any more questions for Chris or just want to chat about experimentation, CRO, hit us up in the follow-up email. We'd love to hear what you're working on. And with that, I think we're done. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good one. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.